So I'll just start with a welcome to country. So I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Wurundjeri people. I'd like to pay my respects to these people, their culture and their traditions. I pay particular respect to their elders, past, present and emerging, and to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who may be joining us today. Thanks for joining in today. I'm going to hand it over to your MC, Erdem now, and I hope you enjoy the webinar.
Thanks, Sal. So thanks everyone for joining as well. We can't see people that are watching, but there's quite a few people on there. I thought it'll be worthwhile just doing an introduction about what this webinar is about. So the title is Wellbeing and Ageing with Spinal Cord Injury. So when we talk about ageing, it's not about old people or anything like that. It's more, I think you've got to see the word ageing as experienced with spinal cord injury. So a lot of us guys have been in chairs or with spinal cord injuries for quite a number of years. We've had different health issues that we might have had along the way and we've got solutions to. So we want to talk about that and share that information with the other people. And yeah, I thought it would be worthwhile with doing a quick introduction with everyone on here. My name is Naz. I work for AQA Victoria, which is a spinal organisation. Now, I've got a C6 complete injury. Over 30 years ago, I've done it diving into shallow water. And since then, you know, the early days was, you know, what am I going to do? What's my life going to be like? And even though it's been about 30 years, I look back and time's flown, you know. I mean, the trick was to find your interest and get into it, whatever that interest was, you know, because I found that you can still do whatever you want to do. And yeah, life's been good for me. And I've had a few health issues along the way, which we'll get into. I might move on to Brian. Brian, if you want to do a quick introduction about yourself.
Thanks, Naz. Yep, my name's Brian. I work for Mobility Plus Wheelchairs. Been here for 8 years now. Whilst my journey's been a little bit different to other people in that it's not a spinal cord injury, I have spina bifida, so I've been living this since birth. But my journey's been a little bit different in that I wasn't diagnosed with any symptoms at birth, but it all started at the age of 12, once I had a growth spurt, and then things started to change. So I've had a deterioration over many years. I'm married with a son who's 22, still lives at home. As I said, work full time, play a couple of wheelchair sports, as in tennis, badminton, and AFL. Yeah, I suppose when Naz asked me to participate in this webinar, I went back to him and said, not sure if I should be offended or honoured being asked to join in the ageing webinar, but he said, no, all good. It's all about your life experience and your journey as how you've dealt with being in a wheelchair, and then everything else that goes along with that, from just health challenges and whatnot. So certainly happy to be here today and be a part of this, and yeah, share my knowledge and experience as I have.
Thanks very much, Brian. We'll move on to Hawaii, if you can do a quick introduction as well.
Sorry. Thanks, Naz. Yes, my name is Hui, and I have this spinal cord injury 34 years ago when I was studying at the university. So I continue to I work after I finished my study, and then I worked for nearly 24 years, and then I retired. So now I'm enjoying my retirement.
Thanks, Hui. And we'll move on to Ian Bennett. Ian Bennett used to be my old boss. He used to be the CEO of AQA Victoria a few years ago. Over to you, Ian.
That's a long time ago, Naz. My name's Ian. I'm a incomplete quad C5-6. Had my accident back in 1975, so I've been a quad for 45 years. Have worked all that time. I'm 67 and ageing gracefully.
Thanks, Ian. I didn't say my age because I don't want to say my age. Anyway, we'll move on to Wendy. Wendy, if you want to give us a Hello as well.
Hi, I'm Wendy Kelly. I'm a T6 paraplegic and have been for 47 years this month. Have married and had 3 children since then. Have worked in the disability sector for over 30 years. I work for Paraquad, which is now Independence Australia, DASI, and Nexus Primary Health, and I'm still working there as a self-advocacy coordinator. Prior to that, I was a rural access worker and worked across 2 shires. So love my work. And yeah, I am aging gracefully too, I hope.
Well, thanks, Wendy. Very busy, and
Yes.
that's why we've got to look at it. We are aging gracefully. We'll move on to Gary. Gary, quick intro from you, please.
Yeah. I had my accident December 1960. So do the maths, and there's 60 years of spinal cord injury. Mine was a diving accident, and I've become incomplete C4, 5, 6. Life since then, I started off doing a fair bit of physical work, which was pretty much beyond the capabilities, but I got away with it. Then I went into sales, which I enjoyed. Happened to be insurance industry, selling accident insurance. Later on got into life assurance, and it's done me pretty well. I also worked with AQA, doing a fair bit of peer support work, which was probably the most gratifying work I've done. Worked with Ian Bennett, and we had a pretty good time there. And since then, I effectively retired, and the health's been pretty good. Have our ups and downs like most quads or paras, and most of those questions will be asked and answered, I guess, throughout the afternoon. And yeah, I'm growing pretty gracefully too, I guess.
Aging gracefully as well, yeah. Thanks, Gary. And Anna, we've got Anna here as well.
Hi, yes, my name's Anna. A bit like some of the other panel people, Ian was an ex-boss of mine. I worked alongside Naz and Peter. I've been in my chair in a para, T2, T3, complete para for 45 years. I've gone on to get married, divorced, have 2 children in their 30s. I am a grandmother now. I've worked probably from the time I was about 17, just didn't work for a little while I was pregnant. Still work at Disability Discrimination Legal Service as the administrator / volunteer coordinator, jack of all trades and a master of none. Have kept pretty active, very much into gym and cardiovascular conditioning. Although the coronavirus has sort of stopped me going to the gym, but I try to do it at home. I think I'm in pretty good nick after 45 years of paraplegia. Don't get me wrong, I've had my health issues, but they are only for a short period of time, and then you've got to get on with life. And that's my story.
Thank you, Anna. And Peter VB.
G'day people, I'm Peter Van Bentham. I work at AQA. I had my injury in 1999, motorbike versus tree. I won because I'm still alive and kicking. Working at AQA now for just on 20 years. I'm supported by a good wife and my son. I live with carers. I don't live with carers, but I have carers that support me a lot in my life. And I've got a lot of hobbies that I won't go into, but enjoy a lot of life and get out and about. And 21 years in the chair, learning to adapt as I get older. Yeah.
Thanks, Peter. And our special guest for today from Austin Health is Liz and Janet. I'll get Liz to just introduce herself first.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Liz Clements. I have been working as a physio at Austin Health since 1996. So that's quite a few years, not as many years living with a spinal cord injury as most of the panel. Most of those years have been spent working in the spinal outreach service. And our job is to work with people who are aging with their spinal cord injury. So kind of anywhere from 2 to however many years. So yeah, I'm really happy to be invited along today. So I obviously don't live with a spinal cord injury, but meet lots of people living with a spinal cord injury. And yeah, I've got clients that are that I'm working with currently that are in their 80s, and some of them living kind of 60 plus years with their spinal cord injuries. So yeah, maybe I can share some of the learnings from working with people with a spinal cord injury as they age today.
That'll be great. Thanks, Liz. And Janet?
Hi, my name's Janet McCarthy. I'm a physio who I've been working at Austin Health probably since 2001 and with the spinal unit since 2004. I have worked both with the inpatient group and also, well, the most of those 15 plus years have been doing spinal outpatients. And this year also helping out with Liz in spinal outreach as well. So I certainly have seen quite a few of you in the past, and helping out where I can to help with some of the issues that crop up and try to find some solutions through there.
Thanks very much, Janet. So just want to let the people out there know too, if you've got any questions, you can ask them in the Q&A box. If you just hover around the screen, that's a problem. Or even the chat. There's a chat function there too. So just type away any questions you've got at all, and we're here to answer those questions. We'll start with quite a few sort of questions already we can start with, but this was a question my family had when I first had my injury. Someone with a spinal cord injury, is their life expectancy the same as everyone else, or is it cut by 10, 20, 30 years? That was a question that I didn't know until sort of later on in my life, just from seeing people and as well as speaking to GPs and specialists as well. So does anyone have an answer to that question? Wendy, did you put your hand up?
Yeah, I put my hand up. I was told 30 years life expectancy, and my husband's a bit disappointed that didn't happen. Said I let him down, but no, I was told that the life expectancy would be that, but
yeah,
proved differently.
I was told that I'd live to around about 70, and so I've got 3 years to go and got a lot of projects to go in between time. So yeah, I don't think that's true anymore.
Yeah.
Yep.
I kind of think that different people got told different answers. I was told back in 76 that probably I'd make it to about 60, 65. A few years off 65, but almost 60, and I'm still here unless I drop dead from a heart attack unbeknown to me. I think I'll be around for a while yet.
Yeah, I'd like to sort of comment on that. Being the eldest and the longest injured, back in 61, there wasn't a lot known about life expectancy or future at all, really. And I was, well, mum and dad were told that, you know, life expectancy would be pretty short. Well, you know, I've gone 60 years. I haven't had any outside health problems, apart from the spinal cord ups and downs. I feel very healthy, very happy, and, you know, I've reached 76 and I don't feel old at all. I feel quite happy.
Oh, thanks, Gary. And Liz, you're going to add to that as well? We're going to add to that?
Who?
You, Liz?
Yeah, oh, yeah, I was, yeah. Yeah, I've heard a lot, yeah, a lot of people I meet who were certainly told, you know, like Gary said in the 1960s, not to expect to live to old age. But I think, as I've already alluded to, I'm assisting people who are in their 80s and, you know, have been living with a spinal cord injury for 60 plus years. So, yeah, it's and the common theme, I think a lot of people in that category is that they're very much paying attention to their general health, you know, to remain kind of healthy in regards to living a long life, just like the general population.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. I think that's what I've seen as well. You know, many years ago, people with spinal cord injury were, you know, they had less life expectancy only because their health issues with UTI and bowel and bladder, they were causing, you know, serious UTIs, and antibiotics, you know, that was sort of new around then as well, and they didn't know which antibiotics would be best to treat the situation. But that was many years ago. Things have changed quite a lot since then. So
yeah, I remember reading a report once.
Life expectancy would be the same as anyone else.
Yeah, I remember reading a report once, Naz, and it was probably about 40 years ago that, you know, UTIs used to have a lot to do with it, and that whole antibiotic thing and getting that all under control. So it was around the bowels and bladders in the early day, which is really advanced so much forward. We've got a lot of good information and spinal specialists helping us through all those areas. Yeah.
Now, Janet, you also you hand up as well?
Yes, what you've all just said has been very much backed up by the evidence in the research that now there is very minimal difference in life expectancy for people who sustain a spinal cord injury. So big changes and great news.
Yeah, thanks, Janet. I've just got a note here that if people, if they can't type in chat or whatever, there should be a function there to put your hand up as well. I think that's probably an icon. So look out for that in case you've got any questions too. Right, so got another question here. How do we manage and adapt to aging? So I guess, you know, we do a lot in our lives and life is good. But just like anyone else in the community, we do age, and because we're reliant on two limbs, most of us anyway, being quads or paras, it's a little bit tougher for us. So we got to look at different equipment to make our lives easier, and also rely on other people as well, you know, more like our carers, our family and friends around us, and also disability support workers. Has anyone been affected by that at the moment? As in, you know, the function's still the same, but you might get a bit slower or be reliant on different types of equipment.
I'd like to say that, yeah, I think I've slowed down a little bit, probably the last few years. I still feel reasonably well and healthy. I think a lot's got to do with it, with the exercise that I've done over the years that has supported my ability to function in life. I eat a very well balanced diet. So I think if you put all of those things and make sure that you take care of yourself, one would hope that you have minimal health issues, and that would be for the general population anyway. So yeah, just maybe a little bit of slowing down. I'm just not as quick as I used to be.
Yeah, that's and I mean, just like anyone else, fitness is really important to us because I think compared to the general community, we have to make sure our weight is good, we're controlling our weight and exercising as much as possible. Otherwise, when you start to slow down, it could happen a lot quicker than other people as well. So it's important to keep active, and you do that by any different ways. It doesn't have to be gym or a sport. You can find your own way of keeping fit and eating healthy as well.
Yeah, chase the little kids around, you'll be right.
Have a couple of babies. That's your answer, Anna?
Oh, well, not necessarily you. It don't have to, but as long as you're chasing little kids around, or the cat or the dog, you'll be fine.
That's right. That's right. You've got to be active. Doesn't matter in what way that is.
Yeah, I think also that what Anna touched on with regards to diet is very important, and I think what we put into our bodies is paramount at this point in time, because you also touched on the weight factor, and that plays a big part not on our fitness level and being able to live day to day and doing what we do with work, sports, just normal social life and whatnot, but also with what strains we put on our hearts and other organs within the body. So I think diet and keeping the weight off is vitally important. I think something Liz also mentioned also with regards to listening to your body as we get older and those aches and pains and things like that, taking a little bit more notice of those, because they're not going to improve and get better as we get older. It's just going to probably get worse and multiply, and it's then a matter of managing our way through that. With regards to pushing these wheelchairs around and the arthritis in the hands and things like that, which I've already started to notice. So sort of managing and monitoring, I think that part of it as well. So health, and as Naz said, fitness is a big part of it. And the fitness not only just so much for your physical fitness, but also just for your well-being and your mental state. So, and keeping active that way, but at the same time, listening to your body and making sure that we don't overdo it. So, do things in moderation.
Yeah, I'd like to agree with both, I guess, Bob and Anna, because I'm pretty specific on diet and also the activity part of it. Well, I've always been extremely active, not so much in later years sporting wise, but I've slowed down pretty dramatically over the last, I don't know, 18 months, 2 years. I tend to kid myself a bit. You don't seem to notice small changes, but all of a sudden a small change can become larger. And I think a lot of that is the fact that as you get older, progressively, you don't quite do as much. You might do the same thing, but not at the same speed. So I guess the main thing is at any age, whether you're young, middle age, older, is keeping active within your own abilities. But even if it's just stretching, moving, just keep things going, because you don't become aware of what you're losing until it becomes significant, and then you've got to try and play catch up again. So keep moving, keep active, and just keep feeling good. Keep the head going.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Just as some comments coming through, some questions. Lynn was told when she had her injury, it sounds like she was told to reduce her weight by 10%, or I'm not sure if that means her life expectancy.
Life expectancy, I think, Naz, yeah.
It was going to be reduced by 10%. And David also said when he was 8 in 68, his parents were told by the doctors that he wasn't expected to live more than 10 years. So you can see how far things have come since then. But so is that the way you see it now, Liz? Life expectancy is reduced by 10%, going by that answer?
I think it's hard to know, because I think it is, you know, we all age, and our cardiovascular health and respiratory health, we're just all subject to those things as we age anyhow. So yeah, probably I think just like there's varied life expectancy for all of us, that's just the same with the spinal cord injured population. You know, certainly, like I said, in Gary's days, and I've met people who, yeah, kind of feel like they're living on borrowed time, 20 years past their what they were told with their life expectancy. So yeah, I think, you know, a lot of what everyone said, it is a lot what it applies to the general population. But Naz, what you said about you know, staying fit and maintaining your weight, I think I certainly see as people get older, if they can maintain that level of physical fitness, maintain their weight, or be engaged in life. I mean, a lot of our clients with spinal cord injury don't have a lot of ability maybe to move or physically keep fit, but they're still engaged in life. But if we're just talking about the physical side of things, the healthy food, the maintaining weight puts a lot less strain on the arms, and people maintain their physical independence for a longer period of time.
Exactly. Thanks, Liz.
I like to add to everyone's as well. So I think besides maintaining our weight and listen to our body, one good thing is keep our mind active as well. So we learn new things. So at the same time, when we learn new things, we tend to see things differently as well. So that's what I can add into. Yeah. And I guess because the other point is when we listen to our body, because like some of you said, as we age, we become weaker. Our body become weaker because we have overused our shoulders, our hands, and everything. So see Janet and Liz, and then get some equipment. We might have to use transfer bench or sliding board, but that's there for us to use.
Exactly, Wayne. They're the things that we've got to look at down the track too. I mean, there is equipment there that's going to make our lives easier, even if it's not useful for us now, but it's an option down the track and something we have to use.
Naz, I was just going to add, for me, probably the first 15 years after spinal cord injury, you know, I was set up well with my team after I left hospital and all my specialists, and I did the same thing for that 10, 15 years, just lived my life and went pretty hard in my wheelchair, you know, didn't mind dropping off a gutter or just going very fast in the chair all the time. But as I got older, my skin integrity started to not be as good as it was when I was younger. So, you know, with the advance with cushions and, you know, the way our services can support us with that skin integrity and pressure map, made a big difference to me and made me, I really had to adapt and rethink that process in the last probably 5 or 6 years. And there was a year there that was difficult where I was having skin issues, but I was retaught to look at that and with different equipment and, you know, slowing down a bit, like Anna said, and just doing things differently, which has got me back in the direction that I can do things at my pace I like again. Yeah, so for me, it was because I sit in the chair a lot and don't do a lot of exercise because I'm a C4 or 5 quad, but get out a fair bit. I sit in the chair a lot. So yeah, skin integrity was a big thing for me. Yeah,
that's important.
Can I just add to that? I just wanted to say that I've found the services there through the Austin Sport, I can't remember what you call yourselves these days, Liz, you're part of it, have been so beneficial to my well-being that I think that the participants, if you need them, you should call them because they've done a fantastic job with my health and maintenance of my abilities.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Anna.
I'll agree. I was just going to say, I'll agree with that, Anna. I broke my leg January 12 months ago, and I've been reconnected with the Austin and the people there, and I think we need to value the experienced people in the background that can help us. Yes.
Yes.
That's a great segue, Ian, because someone actually asked a question about as they age or as we age, osteoporosis becomes an issue. Just wondering, Liz, or so actually Janet or Liz, if you've got an answer to that. I mean, is there like a process that we need to follow, like every 5 years maybe? Do we get a scan or an X-ray of our bones just to see how that's coming along, or if there's like supplements that could help us improve our or bone health, bone density?
You go, Janet.
Sorry, I've got a herd of elephants outside my door here. In terms of what we can do for osteoporosis and that, I think one of the biggest things is maintaining a healthy diet, and because from a general health and lifestyle point of view, generally they don't recommend the need for scans on a regular basis because they don't necessarily give us the information that we're looking for there. But I think if you have any concerns about bone health and that is definitely a question that you can bring up at your reviews and speak to the medical team, and they can probably give you some more detailed information.
I think
Can I just say, sorry, Liz. Because my role that I was doing, I was actually attending a lot of meetings in rural areas. I was travelling a lot, was in and out the car numerous times through the day, and my organisation got a bit concerned about the RSI of the shoulders and the arms and all the rest of it. So they actually looked into it and asked me to start and use a slide board, and which I reluctantly did, and also had a Wimo put on the roof of my car because I was pulling my chair apart and putting it across in front of me. So those things have actually helped me a lot as far as the RSI and the shoulders and the elbows that were starting to play up. And I reluctantly did the whole thing, but I'm very pleased they pushed the issue because it has made a big difference. I mean, I'm COVID brain dead as well as physically not being able to do a lot at the moment because I'm not going out and doing all those meetings now. So not as active as what I was, but yeah, that was one thing that was brought up with my work. And because it's a community health service with allied health people, that they saw that and thought that it was necessary to do that. So I was forced into it, but I'm glad it was.
Yeah, I think I was just going to say, it's important that, as humans, like we're proud. Some people are too proud than others. I think you just got to say, okay, life can be tough, and especially in this situation now. So is it worthwhile considering, getting a Wimo hoist or a slide board, and you just use it? I mean, it's just a piece of equipment. If it's going to save you energy or going to reduce the risk of doing anything or extend the time that you are able to do something, it's important that you don't think of it as being proud or seeing yourself as being weak if you use that type of equipment.
That's correct. Yeah.
I agree, Nas. I totally agree. I put an ambulator in my car 2 years ago, and I should have done it 10 years ago, to be honest. Dragging a wheelchair in and out of a car, and I'm paying for it now with shoulders and shoulder problems. And I think, we need to eat our pride sometimes and look at slide boards and look at what equipment is available for us.
Hey, Brian could probably add some stuff about the multiple choices with power assisting your wheelchair to make you get out and about more easier and embark more. Yeah.
I think Naz, thank you. In previous current years that power assist options for wheelchairs has increased dramatically. You know, from smart drives to smooth to now front wheelchair power assist options, from Baytech to Tri-Ride to Speedy, all those ones all have their own individual features and benefits, but at the end of the day, their sole purpose is just to provide clients in wheelchairs with that greater independence to be able to travel further, to be able to get up those hills, to be able to push long distances, and yeah, just enjoy life a little bit easier than pushing these manual wheelchairs around like we have been. So between that and then some of the other devices that Wendy mentioned, like with the Waymo, for myself personally, whilst I'm a standing para, I've been lifting my wheelchair into the back of my car for many years now, but in the last 12 months, I've now put in a Carolift 40, which lifts the chair up into the back of the car for me. So I've started to learn now that doing that lift, I'm going to twist one day and just do some damage to my lower back, and I'm going to be in a world of trouble. So I've adapted to using a lift for the car to get the wheelchair in. So I do use the smart drive. I use the Tri-Ride Power Assist out on bike paths and things like that, and yeah, they give me a lot of enjoyment, and I actually use the Tri-Ride to commute to work now as well, now the weather's starting to improve. So it's another way of getting around rather than getting in the vehicle. Saves another transfer and things like that. So once I'm in the chair, I just attach the Power Assist, and I'm able to get to work, and on weekends go out and socialise, and like I said, get on the bike paths. When we're able to go back and watch AFL, go back to the footy and do all that sort of stuff again. So very much looking forward to that. But yeah, Naz, as you mentioned, there are a number of different devices out in the marketplace now just to make our lives a little bit easier.
Yeah, just to come in on that, we're talking about, I guess, the body wearing out and shoulders and so on and so forth. I'm in a fortunate position in one way, and unfortunate in another. I'm still very incomplete. Tend to be losing either function or strength, or a little bit of both, I don't know. But I'm still able to walk with two walking sticks. I do that as much as possible. While I'm home, around the house, when I'm out anywhere, I'm using a wheelchair, as to encapsulate on what Brian was just saying. 18 months ago, he suggested I put a lift into the back of my wagon to lift the wheelchair in and out. Well, I haven't done that yet, Brian, because unfortunately I don't get funding for anything, so those types of things become a little bit more difficult. But what I did do, because as I tend to get a little bit weaker, to bring in what Liz was saying about, specifically Liz, on your arms and shoulders, you start to wear them out. Well, if I'm not posturally correct when I'm walking, well, as good as I can be, I'm leaning forward a lot more, relying on my walking sticks a lot more. I feel it in the wrists, the elbows and the shoulders, probably more the shoulders. So I guess to give it a good word, in an overall concept for everybody, is you've got to learn to adapt. Do what you can do within your own capabilities. I know we're all stubborn and we like to keep pushing, and it's nice to keep pushing, but if you can do the same thing, but in a little bit different way, just to make it easier on yourself. I've got a split level house, and it's been advised to me many years ago to get stair climbers put in by the outreach team, and I've been avoiding that. And 2 years ago, this Christmas coming up, I had to eventually put stair climbers in. That's the best thing I ever did.
Yeah. No, thanks, Gary. Just wanted to ask, now this is coming up quite a few times. it's really important to keep in the loop with advances and improvements in equipment and all that sort of stuff. I was thinking the best way to do that, of course, is to keep in the loop with Austin Health, do your regular checking, all that sort of stuff. But what about if you haven't got, or if you're not eligible for Austin Health, or if you live in regional areas? What do people do if they've got issues with, nerve pain, for example, or again, we talked about osteoporosis, but posture, people's posture changes over time. They might need different equipment, getting x-rays on their kidneys. Now, we all know that's really important, but if you can't access the Austin services, what do you recommend people do?
Well, luckily, since I've been working as a physio, there's been a real boom in access to people with specialised knowledge regionally to a degree, if we're talking about assistive technology assessments, posture assessments. So there's a lot more physios and OTs working rurally with experience than, say, 20 years ago, which is fantastic. And also suppliers spreading out into that area. And the NDIS has really changed the game in regards to people's access to assistive technology, which is fantastic. Janet and I love hearing all the positive talk about equipment and assistive technology, because a lot of you would have, come to us for that advice and maybe be happy to hear it or not. But I think a lot of people also said they never regret getting whatever that piece of equipment was and wish they'd done it a long time ago. So that is a good message. COVID has really, created opportunities like this right now, Zoom meetings, telehealth, and certainly we're exploring that a lot more at Austin Health, and I'm more than happy to do telehealth with people rurally, bringing in their community therapists and really working together if people feel they need that specialist contact back to Austin Health. So there's those opportunities as well. And I've been around a long time. I know that we all have varied experience of Austin, and some people like to work with Austin and some people don't, which is great because there are lots of other options out there. But yeah, to encourage you, we can help over the phone, we can help over email, we can help via telehealth, and we really, really want to support people to live their best life as long as possible with a spinal cord injury into old age. That's very much what we want as a service, and particularly the spinal outreach service, to do that. So yeah, there's other ways of engaging when you do live remotely.
Yeah.
It's great to hear from Wendy about this subject, Naz. Yeah.
I still do go, excuse me, to the Austin, but I also do use my local doctors, and I am very much a strong advocate to what my needs and wants are. So, I can go to the local hospital and have my x-rays, my ultrasounds and all those things done prior to going to the Austin hospital. I do speak to the guys down there if I have issues, but yeah, working for a community health organisation is very handy because you actually can.
You know people, don't you? So you know who directly. But what about people that I was thinking that aren't part of Austin Health? They might have gone through Alfred, for example, so they can't get into a particular system. So what do? I'm sure they've got systems put in place where they can find out who a specialist is or how to find one. I was just thinking, if people are not aware, there's organisations like AQA Victoria, Independence Australia, and a whole bunch of other ones that they could contact. And I encourage people, if they don't know the answer, get in contact with their organisation or people that might know the answer.
There's also access There's an inclusion people that you can actually approach through the councils in the rural areas, in Shepparton, in Murrindindi Shire, in Mitchell Shire. There's all, in Strathbogie Shire, there's all people there that actually you can speak to about where they go to and what they do. There's a lot of self-advocacy groups around that can do that too, that have the knowledge to be able to spread that information when needed.
Yeah, I work through a few of the AQA regional networks, and people often say they can't find specialists or good information sometimes locally in regional Victoria. Not always, there's a lot of good information and specialists out there, but I really encourage people to find something that's close and maybe link in with the Austin or an organisation that knows and do it together, so that local service to you learns that process as well and gets knowledge, and builds that knowledge into local services. So, you can do it with a number of different people and build that knowledge up in your area. I recommend that. I also hear a lot of people who've been the chair for quite a long time will say that they become a good expert on their conditions, and combined with the services around them, they share that knowledge together and tailor it to themselves. It's just not listening to the doctor, it's also exploring what your issues are and saying that well and digging into it and being a big part of that. Yeah.
I think also that don't put things off. If you've got an issue, don't put it off and don't leave it. Go look and try and find the people to help you manage that issue.
Yeah, that's a good point, Aaron, because a lot of things do go away or get better over time, but you want to find out the hard way or the easy way. If you've got a concern,
right. Exactly.
Just get a check-up, ask the question, and just don't let it deteriorate where time might not be the answer.
Particularly pressure injuries. I've got to say that. Particularly pressure injuries.
Yes.
On the assistive technology side of it, we're finding that, as we sort of mentioned with NDIS getting rolled out, so certainly more and more into the regional areas, that the demand for us to travel to Bendigo, Ballarat, Gippsland, Shep, all those sorts of places is becoming more and more. So we're spending a lot more time sort of doing appointments in those areas. So in supporting therapists and clients in those areas for all different sorts of assistive technology. So we've had to change our way of sort of doing business in that as well, with not only sort of servicing the Melbourne metro area, but certainly going far more regional than what we used to. So.
Yeah, that's great. I think with NDIS, a few years ago, if anyone needed equipment and they weren't funded by TAC or work cover, they had to do fundraising for a wheelchair, or, they had a wheelchair that lasted 10, 15 years because they couldn't afford a new one. I mean, if you had to pay for a new one, they're not cheap. But now with NDIS, not everyone qualifies for NDIS. Gary just mentioned, he doesn't qualify for NDIS, so he can't get those expensive equipment. But for those people that can, I think it's important to see what others are doing, what equipment they are using that will be beneficial for yourself. I know, Brian, you would have seen a lot of people using a lot more equipment in the last 3 years.
Oh, yeah, certainly. As the demand for vehicle modification work and assistive technology, whether it be from power assist or manual wheelchairs or even more power chairs even these days as well, has increased dramatically. So, but it's all for the benefit of the client in that just making their life a little easier and reducing those risks of fatigue and that added stress that they're putting on their bodies with daily activities that we engage in. So you speak to any sort of person with a disability or spinal cord injury person, and we're all very much the same in that for many years that we've just been having that inner drive to keep going, and whether it be in our work life or our family and social life. And whilst the mind and the soul is certainly wanting to keep going and not stop, it's the body who's telling us to slow down. So as we said earlier on, it's important to listen to our body and slow down. But at the same time, there are pieces of equipment and services out there to just make that life a little bit easier for us as we do get older. So.
Thanks for that. Janet, there's a couple of questions here I think you might be able to help out with. One person just talked about posture changing over time. So Liz, you might want to jump in as well, but our posture does change over the years. Mine has definitely, like I'm finding, I can't remember what they call it, but you know, when your spine goes like that. What the technical term for that? And also, street swelling too. A lot of people find their legs or ankles swell over time. And is there anything they could do about that? Because that could cause an issue down the track as well.
Go, Janet.
Oh, no, you.
Who, Anna? Did you say?
No, I moved and the screen lit up.
Oh, okay. No. So, Janet,
Liz, do you want to do the posture one? No, that's okay. The technical term that Naz is talking about is scoliosis. There you are. And look, scoliosis can happen over time. It's certainly not an uncommon thing, and probably a lot of that depends on how you're using your body and the different strains and things that you're trying to do with that. So ideally, yes, it's great to get that looked at and work together with your allied health team about options to help with that. So that might be different equipment. It might be also looking at some of the reasons behind why it's going that way. If you're doing a lot on one side of your body, it might be working at how do I spread that out a little bit more if it's possible. And yeah, the things that definitely need to be assessed over time. I've forgotten the other question, sorry.
Another question was swelling. If a lot of people have swelling in their feet, for example. So, and that's annoying more than anything. So, I don't know if it's
that's a really tricky one. Obviously, you would want to check with medical people, doctors and that first, that there's not something else going on. It is quite possible that it's because of the spinal cord injury and the lack of muscle pump to help keep the fluid moving and other changes that tend to happen with a spinal cord injury. But I guess, as with a lot of things with spinal cord injury, because you can't necessarily feel or know exactly what's going on, you need to make sure that there's not anything else happening there that might need more urgent attention. So that's something you would want to be checking with your GP or your consultant to start with. If it is just because of your spinal cord injury, there's not, other than elevating your feet on a regular basis, there's not a lot of other options that are there that are safe necessarily with lack of sensation and so forth. Some people will use compression stockings, but you do need to be quite careful with that and speak to your medical team before you go there.
That's a swear word for me, Janet. Compression stockings.
Yeah, I can understand that.
But they do help,
Yeah, you need to be careful. They can work, but you also, particularly if you don't have sensation, it needs to be done very carefully if you're going to go down that track. So that's something to have a conversation, work through with your team.
Yeah. And I might ask you this one, but with that scoliosis one, are you conscious of that? And what do you do? For example, do you do regular stretches? Or I know a lot of us get into bad habits like Janet, we rely on one side. If we're right-handed, we're always using that side. So yeah, can you add to that?
Sorry, who was that question to?
Anna, sorry.
Me?
Yeah, because I cut you off and I thought I'll just throw this at you for cutting me off.
Yeah, look, I do tend to lean to one side, and I do sleep on one side because I find if I sleep on the other side, I wake up 10 times in one night, and I've tried over the years to try and sleep on the other side, but I can't, or I don't want to. And I'm a bit of trying to teach an old dog new tricks. And I am right-handed, so that's probably why I lean to the right. But stretching, and I mean, I've got my arms, so I can do exercises that use your lats, and trying to strengthen those as much as I possibly can, I think have helped over the years. But I must say, since the lockdown, I haven't been able to do anywhere near as much of that exercise that I used to do. I've noticed I've sort of started to slump over again. So, you know, I think at the moment I can do stretching, but that's really about it. I don't know what else I could add to that.
No, that's good. That's excellent. So you pointed out the main things, you know, I mean, just being conscious, changing sides, you know, sleeping left to right. If that doesn't work for you, at least try it, you know, do your regular stretches. Try not to rely on one side because, and your cushion also, you know there's different types of cushions that if you do develop scoliosis, you know, you can have a special cushion that will minimise the effect, I think. I think I'm answering this on behalf of you, but
yeah, get your wheelchair reviewed. Get yourself reviewed regularly, and get your posture and your wheelchair reviewed by a health professional if you've ever got any concerns. So, and to help monitor it.
Yeah,
a lot of these, you know, postural asymmetries are what you talked about. I'm right-handed. They can just be associated with living your life, and particularly we meet people who are older who didn't have all the cushions and the back supports and the wheelchairs that we have now, that do have real significant postural problems. But yeah, they're very much associated with trying to live their most independent life with their spinal cord injury. Yeah, but can be more avoided now.
Yeah, very important, because that's one of the things, just like precious was, you don't want it to get out of hand or out of control. We've just been joined by Kadir, who Kadir's a quadriplegic too from when he was a little kid. But Kadir, we've just been talking about osteoporosis. You know, that's curvature in your spine. Just wondering if you've got any feedback on, or if you've been affected by that.
No.
Because the answer we got was, you know, it's really important to do your stretches and not rely on one side. So you know, your both sides get a workout.
Naz, I forgot to mention your bedding is very important. To have the right mattresses that, you know, that are for you, because you do spend 8-10 hours lying down as well. So you want to make sure that that is part of your health regimen.
Yeah, very important. Does anyone know what a chair topper is?
You say that?
Someone's made a comment. I recently put on a chair topper.
Yeah, a chair topper is a device that sits on the top of a vehicle that lifts the. It's very similar to a wino, but it's fully encased though. So rather than the chair sitting out in the elements, it goes into. You're probably familiar with. You often see those vehicles going around with luggage carriers on the top. So it's an enclosed capsule that the chair gets lifted up into.
Thanks for that.
Naz, can we go back one step?
Yeah, sure.
I'd like to go back to what Wei brought up in the early stages of today was about mental well-being as well, and keeping occupied that way. You know, it's all about ageing, and I think things that have helped me through my years is, one has been routine, the other one has been further study, and keeping up with technology and so forth. I'm currently studying an accounting package called Xero, and I think that's another area of I suppose helping that whole ageing process is your mental side of it and keeping busy.
That's a fair point, especially with the COVID-19. You know, I think we've heard about it, and hopefully we aren't having too many, you know, mental health issues with being stuck indoors and not being able to see friends and family and all that sort of stuff. And I know people at the Royal Field or other rehab units or just in hospital generally would be doing it pretty tough at the moment because they can't get anyone in. You know, it's either through online video or online chatting or phone calls.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, I think hobbies and interests, people need those to and to keep active.
Mm.
Yeah, how I brought up a great thing was about learning new things.
Exactly.
Which teaches that muscle between your ears to do something else, you know, which is, I think, really important. I like to pick up on a new thing now and then, or some sort of training or education or activity. And, you know, when I get a bit bored, I think it's time for a new hobby or learn something else or put my time into something else. I think it's good for your brain. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you're right, Ian. I do ceramics, which I can't do at the moment because of COVID. But I have a device called a Swiss Track that actually pulls me along. It's they're made in Switzerland, and I absolutely love it. But my daughter is a horse rider that competes out in cross country and dressage, and so we've got a bus that we've actually my husband pulled apart and renovated so that we can go to these horse events. And it's all rigged out for me. And we use the Swiss Track, and I go all around the events when they're on. You know, due to COVID, they're not. I take my grandson to archery. I pick him up from Melbourne, and we drive to Benalla to go to archery. So all those things are so important for your mental health. To be active and be really busy and then I work 4 days a week as well. So. And we have a grandson that lives with us too. So homeschooling's been a bit challenging with his father working as well. So Janet's saying, I'm hearing you, but we're lucky we're in regional now, so they've all gone back to school, thank God. So it's a matter of, keeping yourself fairly busy, and having 3 generations in one house is a bit challenging at times. So it's very important to have a good mental health and a good outlook to life as well.
Exactly. Being positive about it, I think, is a big thing.
Can I go back to the funding where we talked about that NDIS is great and people have TAC, and I'm not sure how many people we do have here today that maybe don't fall into that bracket. So as they age, their only potential support is the My Aged Care system. Just to say, like, then a shout out in regards to Austin, we are doing a lot more supporting people getting onto that My Aged Care system and really working out how they can be best supported by My Aged Care and the statewide equipment program in regards to, you know, living into old age with their spinal cord injury, just to maximise their independence, really trying to keep people at home for as long as possible. I just wanted to bring that up. Gary, there you go. something maybe, but that's certainly something we want to support people with.
Exactly.
So someone's asked a question. I really can't pronounce this word. I don't know if anyone knows it. Spondylolisthesis. Has anyone
Spondylolisthesis.
That's the one. Yeah. What is it?
Yep.
So
I don't know. You guys, you physios, it's stress fractures, isn't it? Stress fractures around the hooks that hold the vertebrae together. I don't know whether that's right or not. My husband's got it, so
okay. So the question is advice on the best form of treatments for that word.
Okay. Spondo, it depends whether people sometimes get it mixed up, because there's something called spondylosis, which is just general wear and tear in the joints in your in between your vertebrae, and then spondylolisthesis is actually when there's breaks or defects in, I need a picture to be able to spondylo, halfway in between.
Loss.
Yeah, there's spondylosis and there's spondylolisthesis.
Okay.
Yeah, so that we might need to deal with that one separately. Sorry.
So, see their GP, find out more.
I'm not sure who it came from. Sorry.
I can't see that one, but I'd say go to the doctor for that one. Sal's asked Janet. Yeah. Sal's asked Janet Nider. I think there's been some questions there about arthritis and wear and tear, and whether people with spinal cord injury are more subject to that. And the answer would have to be yes, you know, because if we're using a lot less muscles to be as physically independent as possible, and where people are unable to walk and using the wheelchair, obviously using the arms, you know, for mobility all the time. Yeah, so I think the theme would be to get advice early in regards to that, you know, to get treatment. You know, that's where Janet comes in. She will treat people with shoulder pain, wrist pain, muscle imbalance. So going to a physio or whoever can help you in that way to treat your pain, but also, you know, looking at strengthening and how you can stay as active as possible, but also considering where assistive technology will enable you to reduce the strain on your body to actually maintain that physical independence for as long as possible. And I think along those lines a little bit about the bone health. This is just something else that's come to mind, and also along the independence and the assistive technology, really that avoiding falls because of osteoporosis is really something that is really important. I don't know if anyone on the panel has experienced a broken leg or a broken arm or a broken leg, and just really how disabling that is. It's very painful, can affect your posture, affect your function. You know, if we get postural issues, we might then end up with skin issues. You know, it's not as simple as having surgery as it might be more simple if we've got full muscle control. So yeah, as we age, well, as you age, as we all age really, you know, in that falls department, yeah, we want to avoid that, avoid the falls, avoid the broken bones, that can just really add to, yeah, just your independence and reducing your quality of life.
Can I add to that? Can I add to that a little bit?
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier I broke my leg January 12 months ago, and it was basically, I suppose, life-changing for me. It stopped me doing a lot of things, but I had to go back and re-look at how I was going to go on with life, I suppose, and live at home and live independently. So I've had to change my ensuite bathroom around to make it totally wheelchair accessible. I've put an Abbey loader in my car. I've re-engaged with Janet and the Austin, and I think you need to keep that in the back of your mind, so that if something does go wrong, that you are ready for it. I suppose I wasn't. I don't know how you get ready for it, but it was a bit of a steep learning curve for me. But it was, looking back on it now, it was probably the best. In one way, it was a good thing for me because it forced me to go out and look at the resources around me and look at the equipment. I'll stop there.
Yeah, I broke my leg in 18 years ago, and we're talking about osteoporosis. I can't get a conclusive checkup on osteoporosis because I have bolts and nuts and screws and and rods in my leg. So it impinges in even other ways that you wouldn't even consider. I know I think I've got excellent bone health because, as Janet knows, I do have quite a few falls. I haven't had any bone problems through those falls, not since 18 years ago. And yeah, it's doubly disabling, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is. I think I had a fair bit of osteoporosis in my legs, and so yeah. But it forced me, I suppose, to relook at it. But it also now is paying a toll on my shoulders because I've had to go back and do transfers. So you know, I've with the aid again of, and I'll say Janet, with the aid of Janet, I've had to learn how to use a slide board in transferring and assistance. So I think, you know, you've got to be ready as you're getting older. You've got to be ready for something that might go wrong.
And so that's another self-pride thing too, isn't it? You know, and which brings in, you've just got to readapt your movements and your thoughts.
Be flexible.
I had an experience back in 2009 where I was still sort of walking at that point before I had gone into a chair, and my gait was that bad that I wore out my right hip to the point that I had to have a total hip replacement. Now, whilst I had the surgery, and the surgery certainly got rid of the pain, and I thought that was a great thing, but the surgery involved was cutting through the glutes and to get to the hip, and my walking deteriorated dramatically after having that done. So I went from thinking that I was going to have this new hip put in, and I knew it would sort of fix the pain side of it, and I was hoping I might have got a little bit of mobility back and being able to continue to walk, but it actually had the reverse effect in that my walking deteriorated even more so. And that was actually the catalyst for me then to decide to start using a wheelchair, because I had wore out the right hip. The knees were really starting to have pain in them, as do the ankles, because I don't have any hamstrings, quads or calves that are really doing anything with my walking, and so all my weight transfer is going down through into those joints. And yeah, so wearing out the right hip and having that replaced, and I knew then if I didn't sort of start using the chair at this point, more joints would then start to suffer and I'd be having more surgery, and that was the last thing I wanted. So it was really at that point that I decided to start using the wheelchair, and that was a major lifestyle change for me to do that, because for 45 years I had pushed through and walked as much as I could up until that point, until I then, I don't like to say that I gave into it, but I just had to then accept the fact that I was at that point. I knew that with my spina bifida, that day would come that I would have to start using the chair, that my mobility would deteriorate to that point. But like all of us, I kept pushing through and didn't want to sort of give into it or come to that point. But yeah, after that surgery and then losing more mobility, that was really the turning point for me to start using a wheelchair. And I'll be honest, it was the best thing I ever did, because walking was just getting that much harder. I couldn't stand for long periods. We'd go to weddings and you'd be having those pre-dinner drinks, and I'd find myself leaning on my wife because I couldn't stand upright for a long period of time. I couldn't go to the football anymore because I couldn't walk into the ground or certainly walk down steps and things like that. So for me, going into a wheelchair, believe it or not, was life-changing. It just made things easier and opened up doors for me to be able to engage in sports again, start going back to the football, becoming a shop of all things. And just doing day-to-day things, and it's enabled me to continue to work as well. If I wasn't in the chair, and certainly have working at Mobility Plus, it's it just goes hand in hand with using a wheelchair. But it's just enabled me to keep working, and I'll be able to keep working for many years to come.
Oh, that's good. Thanks, Brian. We've got 6 questions, and when we said that we were going to go until 1.5 hours. I wonder if we just go through these questions and see if we can get some answers, and then we'll continue the chat. So Con's asking, is there anyone or anywhere I can go to find a pain manager who knows about nerve pain, as I've felt it from the waist down and my feet are now have a burning sensation that stops me from doing anything. So he's looking for a pain doctor, I guess. So again,
there are quite a lot of services out there for pain management. We'd probably need to understand a little bit more whether that person's part of Austin Health or otherwise, or regional or that, to be able to direct them. So I wonder whether they get in contact with us that we can perhaps direct them more easily. But there are definitely, I mean, first of all, it would need to be something that is addressed with a medical, a GP or a doctor to start with. There are some quite good online resources as well for spinal cord injury pain. And yeah, it needs to be properly assessed. So I guess it's a matter of getting in contact with the appropriate health professionals in the area. So it's probably a little bit hard to answer directly without knowing where that region.
Yeah, that's right, Janet.
Yeah, so I'm more than happy to direct that person in the direction if I have a little bit more information.
Thanks, Janet. And what the best way to provide your details, we'll just make note of this person and we'll send it through to them. And that's okay to pass on your details?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And next question, or get in touch with AQA and we can give you the information.
Yeah, so there's some good stuff out there in terms of pain management programs with spinal cord injury. So and it's about management of that type of thing. There's lots of different options.
Great, thanks, Janet. Next question, what resources are available for older people to find clubs and organisations that can accommodate people with impairment? So, find clubs, I'm thinking, I'm seeing that as men's sheds or different hobby groups or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to direct this one to anybody because they'll probably think I'm picking on them because I can't answer that because I'm not old. So.
It's about interests, Naz. It's about interests.
Yeah,
it's nothing to do with being old.
Look, I think that if you want to know, maybe you could ring up your local council. They've got an array of different organisations that may be able to put you in touch. Sometimes if you just do a Google, you can come across chat sites or various organisations that are specifically for paras and quads. Excuse me, I've got to take an urgent call.
That's all right. I think someone's giving Anna the answer, so she'll be right back.
Yeah, it's local. It's going to your local councils and finding out. Men's sheds aren't for old people, Naz. They're for all people. Neighbourhood houses are another avenue where you can, they have computer skills and a number of other things. So there's a whole range of stuff that you can do. It's just better going into, speaking to your council and speaking to somebody there. And there normally is an access and inclusion officer or something within your council as well.
Yeah.
DSR is another place to start as well. It's not just sports, it's recreational as well. So
yeah, so that's disability sport and recreation, the organisation.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you never had bone health issues, what are some things we should keep an eye out for? Was the next question.
Just typing in that, I've gone to the type a little bit there. I don't know that there is. Janet might say something, but I think it's back to that. I think everyone gets osteoporosis as they age, and you certainly get it more with spinal cord injury. So it's about still just staying healthy, but maintaining your flexibility as you can, but avoiding the falls as well as much as possible. I think James put in the question about him earlier about the position on his, kneeling on his arm bike possibly, or hand cycle too. I think I haven't heard of anyone breaking a bone or having problems from doing that if the body's flexible enough and used to being in that position, which it sounds like you know you've been doing that for a long time, James. So I think, yeah, just as long as your range of movement and muscle length's okay, that should be a good thing.
I think probably the other thing with that is just keeping an eye on how you're travelling from a transfer and mobility point of view, because I think that's probably in terms of the fall side of things, because ultimately whoever you are, as Liz said, you will end up getting onto osteoporosis, and with a spinal cord injury that makes it more likely, but it's trying to avoid falls and keeping yourself as fit and healthy and as strong as possible. So if you're finding that you're struggling a little bit more with your transfers, instead of ignoring that, it might be time to have a look at that. Doesn't necessarily mean you need to change anything immediately, but it's about having options and looking into those options, because sometimes some of this stuff takes a little bit of a while to A, get your head around changing, or B, get some equipment organised. And I think a lot of it is about having options, and you don't always notice that things have got to a point until sometimes something happens. So it's about trying to keep an idea about how you're travelling with some of those things.
Thanks for that. Dave just made a comment. Any club would welcome in the chair. So we were just talking about that previous question. He's part of Rotary, and he said they'd welcome anyone and put you in touch with someone in your area as well. Like I mentioned, DSR, Disability Sport and Recreation for Sports, which we mentioned. Okay, I think this one's for all of us. How are we coping with the inactivity forced on by the lockdown regarding COVID-19?
I'll start. I've been coping very well. I've had 210 little jobs that I had to do, and I'm down to about 110 now. So I've stayed at home. As most people probably know, I make a bit of furniture, so I've been working in my workshop. I've been growing a few veggies and physically trying to keep all those things going. So I basically have I've followed the rules, but I've just ignored it as to the point. And obviously, I'm staying home, but looking around the place and just trying to keep as busy as I can.
Thanks, Ian.
And sorry, just one thing, and maintaining a routine, getting up at the same time every morning, and eating well, and just keep going at it, and don't let it get to you.
I think that's the most important thing, having a routine and sticking by it, you know?
Yep.
Get up at a regular time, make sure you stick by it. Yeah. Anyone else? Have people sort of, if they're in lockdown or got restrictions on themselves, what have they done to improve their lifestyle, I guess?
Don't forget online. You can study online.
Yeah,
if you want
exactly.
to go out, if you want to go out and do something, whether you want to play a guitar or you want to study accounting or whatever, you can. There's so much to do online if you want to do it. Yeah,
there is a lot of people, they want to be travelling and all that sort of stuff, but a lot of the museums around the world, for example, they've got live shows happening. Theatres are doing the same. They're having online concerts if you're into that. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you could be doing, like learning a language or just learning a skill that you sort of had in the back of your mind for ages. This is a perfect time to get into it. but make sure you've got some structure for each day. Now
Yep.
go for it. Anyone else?
I've just
Work,
been working from home. Yeah, sorry, Brian.
no, you're right, Wendy. I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, work has still been there, so I've been fortunate in that respect. So I've been sort of kept busy that way. On socially, I certainly miss not doing my sports. I'm missing wheelchair, tennis, badminton, and AFL, and certainly waiting for those to open up again. At home, as I mentioned earlier, I've got a 22-year-old son who loves to get in the garage and start a project and then never finish it. So I'm forever moving one thing around the garage from the other, so I can start to get cars back in the garage because he loves, like I said, starting a project and just leaving stuff everywhere. So I find myself cleaning up after him. So spending quite a bit of time in the garage. I'll move my shelves from one side of the garage to the other just for some time and give myself something to do, but it gives me a chance just to clean up and that as well. So yeah, just a few odd jobs around the house really. So, and keeping positive that way.
Thanks, Brian. What about Anna? Your routine has changed. I mean, I know you were working. Are you working from home now, or are you making sure you do your shopping every second day? Or
Look, admittedly, since the COVID, I've become a hermit at home because I'm in that vulnerable category, I suppose. What I've tried to do with my physical activity is, which is a funny thing, about 12 months ago, I saw some elastic cables that were in Kmart for about $25. So I bought 2 sets thinking, one day they might become useful if I can't get to the gym. Well, luckily, they're hanging on my back, on my door in my bedroom, and I do use them, not all the time. They don't do the same sort of thing, but they do keep a bit of strength up. My garden probably hasn't looked so good because I do go out and try to sweep as much as I can without overexerting my shoulders, because I do have issues with my shoulders and my elbows. When I get a chance, I do go out and try to do a lap around the park, but again, I don't overexert myself, just more for change of scenery. Wearing the mask is a bit hard, but I do try to use it. Well, I do use it every day, I should say, when I go out. Pottering around the house, I'm a bit like, I think, Brian, I move things from one side to the other, and then I decide, no, I don't want it over there, I'll put it over here. I have done a garage clean out, and that hasn't looked so good in years. And I think if we just keep moving, whether it's, going up and down the hallway, in and out of the house, any bit of movement is better than no movement at all.
no, that's good. I mean, it gives people an opportunity to do all those things and catch up with friends, that you probably haven't seen or heard from a while. Just wondering, what's your isolation been? Have you changed your routine or?
Well, as like Anna, Janet gave me a set of exercise, so I'm doing the exercise at home. So I have about 3 different things I do, and I like all these cooking shows, so I learned a lot about that. So trying to do a bit of cooking, but I can't do too much. So it's keep me busy, and because I'm doing the Bible study, so it keep me busy there. As I said before, learning new things. So as you said, learn a language. And there's so much on the internet, on the YouTube that I can learn. So it's a lot that I can do. So I haven't found, I need more time rather than the lack of time. So.
Good.
I mean, I'd have to say that working from home, even though I went to the office every day, parked the car about a K from the office to get there and back, that was just my own bit of exercise. I don't know about anybody else, but I really enjoy working from home because I don't have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to be at the office by 8:45. I don't have to battle the traffic coming home. I mean, I do miss the face-to-face interaction, hey, but we've got Zoom, we've got phones, and I think that's also helped with my health because I'm not sitting so many hours in my chair, even though I've got all the cushions and all the equipment that I need for my disability. I just find that it's not the same wear and tear on your body as you have when you have to get up every morning at a certain time, be at work at a certain time. You can't rest during the day. You've got to come home and do it all in the reverse. I've just found it much more beneficial to my well-being. And so I'm quite happy to stay home and work from home if I can.
Thanks, Anna. A couple more questions on there. Is everyone okay to hang around for a few more minutes?
I have to go. I've got a meeting, sorry. I've got another meeting I've got to go to, and I've got a board meeting tonight, so I'll have to leave. I'm sorry.
No problems. Thanks for joining us, Wendy.
No worries. See you later. Nice to see everyone.
Bye, Wendy. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Wendy.
Bye.
Bye.
The question is, what other forums are out there besides WOT Day sessions for people with spinal cord injuries?
I'm signed up to Spinal Cord Australia or Spinal Injuries Australia, I think. Yeah. That's a good one.
That's Facebook, is that Facebook?
Yes, through Facebook. Okay. And Disability Access, I think, is another one. And they've always got good things that you learn about.
Okay.
There's another one about equipment. If people are interested or looking at buying equipment and so forth, there's an American YouTube called Living Spinal, and they do tests on a lot of different sorts of equipment that are available out here.
And that's a YouTube channel, yeah?
Yeah, well, it's a web page as well. If you go into Living Spinal in the States, it'll come up.
Yeah. I know for Victoria specifically, there's a Spinal Injury Vic Facebook page as well, and where people can ask questions and have a bunch of people like we are now answer that question and give advice and just have a chat. Anything else come to mind?
No.
Yeah. Well, what about how often should you get reviewed in terms of posture and pressure?
There you go, Janet.
Throw me in the deep end. It's really on a needs basis. So if you have any concerns, then I think it's appropriate that gets reviewed. Obviously, if your equipment is starting to wear out, that's an obvious time as well to have a look at what's going on and seeing if anything's changed. But generally, you guys know your bodies well enough. I think you know when things are changing and when that's going to be appropriate. So it's not a set interval type of thing, but if you're noticing things that you're concerned about, time to get reviewed. If you're having skin issues, obviously it's time to get it reviewed. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. So Leanne just asked, you missed those pages, Facebook pages. Can we just go over them again? I mean, the Victorian one was Spinal Injury Vic, VIC. And Ian, that was the YouTube. What was that one?
Living Spinal.
Living Spinal?
Yep.
And Anna, what was the one you joined? You wasn't sure where that was from? Sorry, you're on mute, Anna.
I think it might be the Spinal Cord Injury Australia.
That's it. Yep.
Yep.
So there's a website for that, and obviously there's a Facebook page.
Yes.
As well. Yep.
Okay. And the last one that's here at the moment is, are there any refresher classes for wheelchair skills?
AQA was doing something on that front as well, I think. There's stuff in the pipeline, is my understanding, but certainly on a individual basis, you could certainly get in. I mean, the service I could certainly offer if you're a Victorian spinal cord service patient, or it would be linking up with a allied health professional that has that knowledge and skill to be able to go through that. So there are some exercise physiologists around that have that skill set. but it's just be a matter of inquiring and doing that as well. But I know there are some in the works, just not quite sure if they're official programs yet.
Yeah, we actually, we help out in the rehab unit. Of course, that's for inpatients, but also we started a wheelchair skills program last year for the general community. We got that off the ground, and that's when COVID-19 hit. So as soon as we're allowed to, we're going to start doing that again. But I think cells.
Jill's working on something as well. Is that with you guys, or is that separate?
That no, that must be a different one.
Yeah, there's some stuff in the works, definitely, and it's certainly an interest of mine in terms of you know, trying to get that off the ground in the not too distant future. But yeah, there's stuff in the pipeline, I'd say, on that. But at the moment, definitely on an individual basis, you could either find a local allied health professional to help you, or you could come through us.
Yeah.
I've seen things on YouTube. I mean, how relevant they are to the individual depends on what you're wanting out there. So
yeah,
YouTube's always a good thing to look at.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's also having the confidence to practice and having somebody to help you be able to do that. In terms of the spotting, I think is often the big thing.
Another good way is, you know, wheelchair rugby, they train at the Royal Talbot when we're allowed, and basketball would be doing the same thing, but maybe just joining one of those groups, because the guys in the groups are fantastic, you know, and they can have a look at what you're able to do, and they'll be able to tell you what your potential is and get in touch with people they know that could help out.
Yep, I have to agree with Janet that it's very important that you've got a spotter, or at least have anti-tip wheels on the wheelchair for new wheelchair users when they start off. So
yeah, good point. Good point.
Sel, are you there at the moment? I think you had something to add to that. We've answered all the questions, which is fantastic. Did you want to add to that, Sel?
No, you ended up answering it, Naz. And Janet's right. There is something in the pipeline for a community skills program that is a little in partnership with AQA, and also, as you mentioned, the idea of using peers to assist. Obviously, if it's a new skill, then certainly a spotter and maybe team up with a peer and a health professional. That's it. You're going to do the tips and tricks to wind it up?
Yeah. So just wanted to go around with everyone. Just a tip and trick for people out there. You know, what advice would you be able to give people? You want to go first, Gary? You've got a tip just to give some awareness, motivation for people who aren't doing anything, what they need to be looking at?
Well, tips and tricks, as far as I'm concerned, the subject matter pretty well covers that. Because we're aging with spinal cord injury, doesn't matter whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 60 years. You gain a lot of experience along the way. And if you feel you're losing something, or you're feeling down and you don't know what to do about it, you've learnt what to do over that period of time. Just think back, analyse, just think about the way you're thinking and pick up on those tricks and start to readapt them to your current life.
Great, thanks, Ian. Brian?
I think, as we spoke about earlier on, where there was this stigma, one for a better word, of that people with spinal cord injury or some disabilities have a shorter lifespan. that's not the case anymore, that with modern medicine and services and equipment today, that that's certainly not the case, and we can live to a nice, healthy age. That I agree with Gary that we just got to remain positive, certainly have goals, targets, things like that, that you're looking to achieve. Your bucket list also helps to be able to tick off those things that you want to achieve in life. That a spinal cord injury doesn't mean that life stops. You can still be mobile, you can still drive a car, you can still work, you can still play sports, you can still do a lot of things that you did before, but just doing it differently. That's all it is. So, but just have that positive attitude and keep moving forward.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. What about Janet? Anything from you? Any piece of advice?
I think, yeah, just try to keep on living your life to the fullest, and make sure that you reach out for help. We're here to help you try to live your life to the fullest, and we'd love to be able to support you in that manner. You know, keep fit, keep healthy, and yeah, and go from there.
No, great. Thanks, Janet. Why?
For me, it's, I wish I learned a proper technique for transfer when I was young, so that, because now when you get older, it's harder to change. So once we learn the proper technique with pushing, with transfer, you can act properly, like save our shoulders and so save our hands. So just get the proper technique for everything that you do.
Yeah.
So it will go a long way.
Don't get into bad habits.
Yes.
What about Ian? Tips or trick from you, or a bit of advice?
I haven't got a lot of advice, Naz. I'm getting too old for giving people advice. I'm a has-been, mate. I think the things that have benefited me has been being positive, keeping a routine, keeping in that routine, keeping exercising, and just keep on living, and don't look back, look forward.
Yeah, good advice. Thanks, Ian. Anna, tip or trick from you?
Look, you know, I've got to go focus back to 45 years ago. I didn't think I could get past 5 days, let alone 45 years. Healthy mind, healthy body, healthy lifestyle, reaching out when you need that help, accessing people that can help you. Everything that everybody else has said is what we should all do.
No, thanks, Anna. And for me, I'm the same. I think everyone's got pretty much the same message, but it's really important to get out of your comfort zone, whatever that is. You know, I mean, if you're at home thinking, oh, I'd like to do that, but it's too hard, I'm really going to take that first step. And if things are getting hard, you know, talk to people that in our community, and you know, from the Facebook page, find out what people are doing. If things are getting hard, yeah, look at Slide Voice and all that sort of stuff. You know, don't be too proud. I think just don't sit back. If you want to do something, just make that first step. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I agree, Naz. I think you support networks is a big thing, and we've got them. Spinal patients, we have got a very good support network with the Victorian Spinal Cord Service, and utilise those people. Yeah.
Just seeing a lot of people saying thanks. You know, they've loved this webinar, and quite a few people on there. I don't know if there's anyone still. Actually, there are participants still there. I know Cell in the past, what he's done is invited people, if they want to just come and chat, join us in the chat, and you know, they might you know, just want to say hi or whatever. So I don't know if you want to do that, Cell, or if we're able to.
Sure. I'll stop the recording now and say a quick thank you to all the panelists for your time and expertise today. It's been much appreciated. It's been a really great session, lots of questions being asked, lots of chat, a very active, dynamic session, and I think it all the topic and your expertise has really made it a really interesting one. So thanks to all of you.